Right on. Welcome back, 30-odd minutes. Second episode, already messing with the green screen. Great to be back here. We've made it to 2 episodes. Oh, there's our background. All right. Huh? Yeah.
Show us your rod.
Thanks again. I appreciate that. Hey, we're back live here from our studios in the Blackstone Valley of Massachusetts. And I'm excited about tonight because we're going to be talking about vampires. A subject near and dear to my heart because I'm not one, but we're going to be talking all about it. It's going to be pretty cool. Also, just like last week, we're going to have a one-question interview where we bring you some of the best minds in the paranormal, where we get to ask them just one question. So think about it. If you had the opportunity to talk to really cool folks who know all kinds of stuff about esoteric subjects, what would you ask them? So we take our cameras and we meet those folks. Tonight, let's present our one-question interview.
One question interview.
We're here with Grant Wilson, one of the stars of the hit sci-fi show Ghost Hunters. Grant Wilson, have you ever done a one-question interview before?
No.
Thanks. Thank you, Grant. Riveting stuff from the mouth of Grant Wilson. All right, so vampires. It's a subject you've heard about for probably your whole life, from Nosferatu, Bram Stoker's Dracula, but tonight we're going to be talking about vampires of folklore all the way up through modern day. And with any aspect of the paranormal, I always believe you need to protect yourself, whether it's spiritual protection or whatever. And we all know with vampires, they hate garlic. And so I've got some minced protection here tonight. And just to be safe, I'm going to be doing this. Oh. Would it kill you for a mint? Oh. Thank you.
No problem, Major.
That sounded like a better idea on paper. Oh my God. Oh, that was terrible. All right, vampires. I first heard about vampires here in New England from the case of Mercy Brown in Exeter, Rhode Island. Some people may know about her. She was the last New England vampire. We're talking about the 1890s, where they actually dug her body up, saw liquid blood in her heart, and took it out, burned it on a rock, and fed the ashes to her brother. So one of these cases dealing with folklore from vampire days. But luckily, we've got an expert here today. We're going to be talking to Konstantinos from our studios live in New York City. Not really our studios, again, coming on through Skype. But Konstantinos, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad I'm on Skype since you had the whole garlic thing.
Yeah. We definitely won't be kissing. A little bit about Konstantinos. He's the author of a number of books, Speaking with the Dead, Nocturnicon, several others. But tonight we're going to be talking about vampires. So I know a subject that you're certainly familiar with. Let's start at the very beginning. Vampires of folklore. When did we start using the term vampire?
Well, it's interesting. Before the word formed in more modern languages, there were words for it in ancient times. So if you go back to Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, you'll actually find that there were things called the Akimu, or restless dead. And they were complete prototypical vampires. They were dead beings that throttled the living, drained them of life force. And from there, depending on your language, the words would change. And all cultures around the world believe in them, even though there was no way for them to communicate. So I find that fascinating. Whenever there's that kind of supernatural belief that people share without communication.
So The Walking Dead, different than a zombie?
Yeah, definitely. Zombie's a much later term, and we know now that a lot of times it's just referring to people who have been drugged and buried for a period of time, and then they rise up and they're kind of mindless. I suppose if you get buried even without a drug, after a while you'll kind of go mindless as well.
Right on, fair enough. And so, but then I know here in New England and in the old country as well, vampires were tuberculosis consumption victims were often labeled as vampires, right?
Yeah, actually, people had a misunderstanding of the death process for many, many years. So when a body starts to decompose, think about the stuff that goes on, right? You have some kind of wasting away illness, someone dies, and then they dig up the body, and what do they see? They see that it's bloated. Ooh, maybe it's full of blood like a leech. Or they'll see that new nails have grown, where it's really just the skin eroding away, making it look like the nails are getting longer. The same thing happens to teeth. The gums will wear back, and it'll start to look like fangs. New hair, they interpret all different ways, and sometimes they would even drive a stake through these bloated things, and what would happen? Well, all the liquefied insides would come out, maybe groans, maybe noises, and it would seem like an animated corpse was being staked in the ground. And a lot of times people would think when they're suffering, psychosomatically, they would start to have the same symptoms and start to think of loved ones. So they would have bad dreams about people who died recently. So they would think in the morning maybe they were visited by Uncle Ned, who died of vampirism, which was really something like tuberculosis.
Right, right. And then Bram Stoker comes along, right, and he makes these things kind of sexy. Right.
Yeah, actually, people were like swooning when they first read that novel. It was like, ooh, erotic. It was like Penthouse Letters or something.
Dracula. We're talking about Dracula for.
In 1896, it was charged with eroticism, and it was the first time that a vampire was moderately charismatic, or I mean, he's not really described as a beautiful creature. Let's be clear.
Right.
He did have like hairy palms and some sort of almost wolf-like characteristic. But the idea was there that he was able to swoop women off their feet with mesmerism and essentially live forever and pick up lots of hot girls along the way. So, I mean, Dracula was a role model for people.
That's one of my points. So, bloodsuckers, blood drinkers, right? I mean, there's folks still today who claim they need blood to survive, right? I'm sure you know some of these folks.
Well, it comes out, I mean, blood drinking seems to be more of a fetish in most cases, right? These people will be subjected to all sorts of tests. Oh, what makes me a vampire? You know, they'll go for all the blood work. They'll go for everything, the workups. And in the end, they're, you know, just normal, ordinary individuals who sort of have that drive. So I don't believe that a living, mortal being who will, you know, sort of like have a heartbeat and show up brainwave activity, I don't believe that kind of person qualifies as the folkloric vampire, which is why I classify them differently in vampires they folks do.
What do you call them?
So they're mortal blood drinkers, people who feel the need to drink blood and emulate. And a lot of times that need will come on around the same time they read Twilight or Anne Rice. Right. Although it's arguable that there's any vampires in Twilight at all. But some kind of book that actually has vampires that do vampiric things. And that seems to change some people's lives. It's different than the folkloric vampire, which would be the immortal blood drinker, someone who for some supernatural reason comes back from the dead and preys on the living.
Right, right, gotcha. And so, but this culture, it's all around. And one of the things I want to focus on tonight is definitely psychic vampires. I'm kind of waiting to get there. How do we evolve from the vampires of folklore, which I think we all get? You know, there were diseases people didn't understand. You looked for labels to what to call these people and how to deal with them. And then fetish blood drinkers, I completely agree with you that this, you know, I don't think it's a need as much, and a rather unsanitary fetish at that. I mean, there's much better things you could be drinking. But then eventually we come to these energy vampires, right? Can you kind of talk about a psychic vampire?
Yeah, what's interesting is even though we come to them in terms of a modern understanding, if you look at the very first vampire lore, they're describing spiritual beings like the Ichimu from Sumer. It's not clear if they're taking blood or taking energy when they come to the living, when they throttle them at night. It seems to be like it could be a ghosty kind of experience, some kind of spiritual being. And psychic vampirism takes other forms too. There's key practices in martial arts where you're working with energy transfer. And in those kinds of cases, you see that it's very much about transferring energy from where there's more to where there's less, or taking energy just to make a less situation, to make someone weaker. But yeah, from the very beginning, it might have been energy they were talking about, and blood was used sort of as a metaphor, because that's how people understood it, that as people bled out, they would die. So blood was somehow tied to blood force, to life force, rather.
Right, right. No, understood. But I think today, I think everybody's got that friend, right? They call you or they meet with you, and after talking to them, you're not talking to them, rather. They're talking at you, and you just feel your energy draining, and your shoulders start to slump, And I think we all have that friend where you're just like, oh, God, you felt like you just ran a marathon after talking to that person. Psychic vampire?
You and I felt that at Book Expo every few booths, right?
We did. We were in... We were at Book Expo on last Friday in New York City and meeting with publishers. And it's funny because there's all kinds of eager folks there, people who want to get their own book deals and stuff like that. And you realize they're sucking the life out of you saying, what do I do? And this is my book, and let me tell you all about it. And you realize, hey, I can't help you. I really can't. That's the thing they didn't quite get.
Yeah. I do believe energy is a very real thing. From what I've seen, it seems to account for a lot of phenomena that we explore in this field. And it's highly possible that people can train themselves to take energy on purpose, what I call an intentional psychic vampire. It's also possible that someone could be ill and in a weakened energy state, if you will, long-term illness, or something happens to them that prevents them from leading the active lifestyle they're used to, and they end up taking through osmosis from those around them. So that would be more an intentional type.
Right, and intentional types, I think those are more rare, correct? I mean, we know a few that are out there in the public eye, but I think your friend that calls you and just drains the life out of you over the phone or over lunch, they wouldn't label themselves as a psychic vampire. We call them that after the fact,
Yeah, they would definitely be of the unintentional type for one reason or another. Some of the intentional types, they make whole lifestyles out of it, and it's what works for them. And in some ways, it's their psychodrama, what they need to metaphysically get off, so to speak.
Right.
All ritual, all occult practice, anytime you're doing something for some kind of transformation, it has to have some kind of psychodrama dressing it up, something that tells your mind you're doing something out of the ordinary, so you can access any of those hidden abilities or latent abilities that we probably all have.
Right.
So for some people, it has to be that emulating the vampire and taking it to that spiritual level. Personally, I couldn't see it pursuing that, just because if we are beings that are tapped into some kind of quantum field of energy, I would think that we have natural abilities to get to it on our own. It seems almost like an unnecessary middleman taking it from someone else.
Right, understood. And is this something that, do you think all of us are psychic vampires at times, like not even knowing it? We all...
I think through osmosis, it's definitely possible. If there are energy fields that we possess, and there seem to be of varying types, I would think it'd be very hard for those to remain discreet. Just think about a lab setting. You have to shield. You have to go, haywire sometimes to prevent the stray signals from getting into an experiment. So it's the same kind of thing. I think our fields would mix and mingle, and depending on who's the alpha in the pack at that moment, they might take the most.
Right. And so have you ever dated one? We all want to know.
I don't know. I think I'm so super alpha that no one gets away with it.
You're immune? So garlic would work in that case, because no one would want to get near you.
Yeah, absolutely. Garlic's a repellent for everyone. I love folklore that goes beyond garlic, like that makes vampires have to be OCD. Like put a jar of nails by your window and a vampire can't come in because he has to sit and count each and every one. I think stuff like that's hilarious.
Well, and also, I don't know if you saw the news, within the last month or so in Italy, they've been excavating some of the mass graves from the times of the plague, and they found a skull with a brick in the mouth. Did you hear about that?
Yeah. To prevent the rising. And every culture has different ways of doing that. Sometimes it's a beheading, sometimes it's stuffing the mouth. In Dracula, for example, Bram Stoker took some of that, and he had it that you stuff the head with garlic to prevent it from rising. And, of course, the wooden stake. And if you look at folklore, the wooden stake's really supposed to ground a vampire. It's supposed to, pin it to the earth and keep it from coming up.
Right.
Which, personally, if that's all it's doing, it doesn't have, a flat head. You would think they could just kind of slip off. But.
Right. And I know there's a Dr. Michael Bell, who wrote the book Food for the Dead about New England vampires, a great resource on the subject, talked about in the town of Plymouth, there was a family of vampires, and what they did was just simply dig up the body, and they would turn it upside down, face it down, and reinter it, figuring, well, it wouldn't know up from down anyway, and that's all they needed. So, but like you said, a brick in the mouth, really, if you're the undead, that's just it's like a minor inconvenience, right?
Yeah, I know. They should just put the jar of nails in there, too, so there's some counting action going on.
Right, a big jar of nails. But how? I mean, how does the energy transfer take place? How can one human give energy or take energy from another?
Well, it would be a hard thing to quantify with our current knowledge.
Sure.
You can't exactly prove what level of control we have over any real energy fields. It's like pure speculation. But if you think of it this way, if you think of our brain as being that spongy thing that you could point to in a lab or in an autopsy table, you can't really point to the mind, you know? Like it probably resides in there, but it's not really that brain matter, right? It's not the operating system. So if you could understand that operating system and how it is basically pure energy, which affects all sorts of quantum channels, there's a whole new branch of neuroscience dedicated to trying to understand consciousness. If you start to understand consciousness and start to understand how energy, through things like entanglement, can affect each other at a great, great distance instantaneously, you start to see all these little bits of evidence kind of correlating to show that there is a way to affect these fields and affect them at great distances even.
But I mean, that goes back to magic from millennia ago, right? Intent. Isn't intent, I mean, a huge part of...
Absolutely. And I think the reason the most ancient magic works, because we are somehow tapping into that stuff without knowing it. I think if you try to overanalyze it, you end up in an analytical state of mind, which is why, even though I was a physics major and I always try and think scientifically, when it comes down to ritual, whoever reads like my stuff, they'll see it dressed up with very much this dark aesthetic and the silver and the candles and the black clothes and, you know, the creepy lighting like I'm in right now. And the reason for that is it's all pure psychodrama. You don't want to be in an analytical state of mind if you're trying to tap into something primal like that. So all that stuff is just window dressing to get it to a point where your mind kind of knows what to do, even though you don't. And they show that in some experiments too. Observers will affect experiments without knowing how they're affecting them, and I think some of that has to do with it.
Right, and speaking of your fans, I've met some of them, and you know, we all have our favorite fans, but at the same time, what's the weirdest, freakiest thing a fan ever gave you?
Oh, I've gotten vials of blood. I've gotten dried rose petals in bags, and it just makes you wonder what their mojo they're trying to chant over it. Yeah, people are very generous with the strange things they give me. Luckily, some of them give me absinthe, which is good.
Yeah, absinthe is, you know,
only drink it if it's sealed, though. You never know what they did to it.
Right. I mean, having partaken with some absinthe with you in California, actually, and Matt Moniz is here, another one of your victims. Of,
yeah. He had some of the good stuff last time, right? In Florida.
Yeah, no, that stuff will knock you out, no doubt. But it's funny how this culture, they look for something to follow. I mean, I think people want something to believe in, and what's great about ritual magic is that it's so hands-on for the practitioner and for the follower, right? I mean, it's not a passive kind of belief system, right?
Absolutely. With ritual magic, there's no intermediary. It's you doing some really extravagant ritual to get to some place in your mind, you know, and to really fully be there. You can argue that the one with a religious bent seems to work better for some people, and for some people, if you take religion out of it and it's just pure animal intensity, it works better for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, with ritual magic, you're definitely connecting with something, whether it's a figure of energy in your mind or something out there. I can't really say, but the effects are the same. And I've seen some pretty startling effects, and you can almost like quantize by the letters I get. I mean, I just get so many letters of people who make the most complex ritual work for them. I think because they really get taken along by it. They get drawn into the pure psychodrama, and it works for them.
Right. I mean, the analogy I use for people is it's kind of the difference between sitting in church or synagogue or mosque or your house of worship and watching the ritual magic take place by someone else, your priest, your rabbi, your imam, and putting your hands on it. And there's something to, I mean, you know, some people get that from doing, you know, I think like you said, you know, doing karate or judo or yoga or, you know, a myriad of other practices. Gardening, you know, some people, you know, the intent of working with the earth and making something grow is ritualistic for them, and it becomes spiritual, even if they're not fully cognizant of it. And I think one of the things that I love about the paranormal is that you know, we don't have all the answers in the universe. Nobody does, and we're all kind of forging our own way. And you know, though the vampire practice or ritual magic looks really odd to a lot of folks. Even occult, which is a funny word too. It simply means mystery, not dancing in the woods and killing ourselves trying to get on a comet. I mean, it's a totally different word. But yeah, right. Sorry, we're starting a cult meeting after this immediately following. You're all invited. But that's the big difference, is that you're getting involved and putting your hands on it. So I think it's a valid way. It's a valid path to enlightenment, if for lack of a better word. Some of us go into haunted places and walk around with EMF meters trying to find God, and others just wrap their hands around vials of blood. And did you get the vial of blood I sent you? It was mine.
It was yummy. It was so good.
I know.
can tell you're type O positive.
I had eaten a lot of candy right before I took it, so you're welcome. I'm glad it got there safely. I appreciate that. But very good. So what else are you working on? What's coming up next for you?
Well, I might as well use this as a forum to reveal the big secret. But yeah, so I have 3 books I'm working on, and the one that's going to come out next is kind of like a surprise title. I haven't told anybody yet, but it's actually the long-awaited follow-up to Vampires, the Occult Truth. It's going to be Werewolves, the Occult Truth.
Excellent.
So that's actually going to be the next one out, and it's like, ooh, surprise! No one knew I was writing it.
That's and is there a huge difference between the werewolf culture and the vampire culture?
Yeah, usually the need for clippers.
Okay, fair enough.
It's interesting though, because just like with vampires, there's the folklore kind that seem to be physical beings. There's also a lot of folklore to support a more, I guess, etheric form of werewolf. Something people might be surprised by how much evidence there is to support. So I'll be revealing all that.
Excellent. Very good. Well, we're looking forward to it. I mean, these are ideas and concepts that have been around a long, long time. They're a part of us. I mean, it's collective consciousness or folklore or history or a blend of all of the above. They're a part of who we are, where we're going, our own inevitable fate. And I think it's great that we're we're kind of pursuing that, and we can pursue it. I mean, you would have been hung a few years ago, and they'd need a long rope.
No, I wouldn't have. Actually, my feet would have already reached the ground.
Right, yeah.
So I would have been safe.
It's fun. At Book Expo, at this giant conference at the Javits Center in New York, I had Konstantinos' cell phone number, and I was ready to call him, but then I realized, totally unnecessary. You just look for the guy that's like a head taller than everybody else and dressed in black, and there he was. But great stuff. Hey, man, I really appreciate you coming on, being our second victim, and great topic, great subject, and we're looking forward to having you back for Werewolves.
Awesome. Absolutely. I'll come on anytime.
All right, man.
I'll
Thanks.
come there to the studio and just make rude noises while I'm drinking absinthe with Matt.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. They don't let us drink in here as far as they know.
Oh, okay.
No one's watching, right? Yet. All right.
I'll just drive by my 67 Impala and wave.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it, and great talking to you, and we will definitely be talking soon.
Yeah, hope to see you soon, man.
All right. Thanks, Konstantinos. All right, vampires. What a subject. We're definitely going to be switching gears now, jumping from vampires to UFOs. And this is a clip that our buddy Matt, who's working the camera here tonight, sent in for us. A UFO sighting that took place in Virginia. And we're actually going to get this gentleman on the phone who took the video. And I'm going to let him set it up here. We're going to work on that in a moment. And one of the great things about the paranormal today is that questions people ask are, even 20 years ago, they'd say, oh, I saw this amazing thing. And they'd say, well, did you get it on camera? Well, no, I don't carry around a camera. Now all of our cell phones have cameras. So people are capturing these things unlike ever before. So we're going to try to get Terrell Copeland on the phone. And it sounds like it's ringing. It's either making coffee or ringing him up. All right. All right.
Hello?
Hey, Terrell.
Yes.
Hey, it's Jeff Belanger. You're live here with 30-odd minutes.
How are you?
Doing great. Great talking to you again. We spoke a little bit earlier today. I really appreciate you coming on. Terrell, while we're talking, we're going to be playing the clip that's now up on YouTube of these lights you captured. I was hoping maybe you could just take us through where you were and what you saw.
Sure. Well, I took the video in March the 5th of 2007.
Right?
And I live in Suffolk, Virginia, which is a southeast town in Virginia. And it was over my apartment, the object in question, across the street from my apartment, about 500 feet up, maybe 1,000 yards away from my apartment building.
Right.
And the interesting thing about this is that there were two objects out, and I filmed this particular object because this one was changing colors. What I saw with my naked eye was just a big ball of light. The ball of light was maybe a little smaller than a hot air balloon.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just changing colors at a pace that it was just unbelievable. I'm talking maybe 5 or 6 colors per second. It was just crazy. From beautiful colors, green, blue, red, amber, what have you. And I got the feeling that this object was communicating with the other ball of light, which was just white. Maybe that's how they communicated, or something like that. I filmed the footage for about 30 seconds, really short, because I was kind of uneased by the situation at that particular time. I wanted to get out of there because it was so close to the ground. And after I finished shooting the footage.
Yep.
Hello?
Yep, we're still here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little static.
Oh, okay, sorry.
After I started shooting the footage, from what I could tell, a military helicopter came from my west and started to follow in the general direction where the object was, and it left, or it either disappeared or just shot out of there like a bullet.
Wow. And so were you using your cell phone camera? Is that what I was told?
Correct.
Yeah.
I was using one of the little PDA phones.
Yeah.
And early analysis from some of the investigators thought that maybe obviously they say that there was an object there. They don't know what it was that could hover and do that.
Right.
But they figured maybe the camera. It's only a 4 megapixels, so they figured that it was the spinning lights that you see were maybe the camera trying to get a grasp of the colors that were changing so quickly. Because, like I said, I saw with my own eyes, my naked eye, a big ball of light.
Right.
But the object was so close, maybe the camera did pick up something that the actual shape of what it was. It looked saucer-shaped or cone-shaped.
Yeah. And have you seen anything like this since?
Yeah. The orb, I guess, spacecraft or whatever it is, that's the common type of craft that I see. And what was funny when I took the video, it was the first time that I saw it up close, that close. I think I got the feeling that this object wanted to be videoed, or at least seen.
Yeah.
And obviously the military helicopter came and interrupted the communication process. But since then, I've seen it again. I've seen it, military jets trying to chase it, which they don't have a chance. I've seen it just fall out of the sky like a bomb and then pop up somewhere else, fly off like a bullet. It's
right.
just amazing.
Well, Terrell, really appreciate you. We're kind of out of time here, but I appreciate you coming on and sharing this with us. Thanks for pointing your camera skyward. I think this is all part of a bigger discussion. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it myself.
All right. Take care, Terrell.
Thanks. You too.
All right. Have a great night. So
All right.
we've got vampires. We've got UFOs. It's a strange world we live in. It's a universe we definitely don't fully understand just yet. And that's how we roll here at 30-odd minutes. If the truth is out there, we're going to find it, but only by accident. What are you going to do? Thanks for watching. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another new episode. Hey.